You're not getting really any reward from it. You're not getting any benefit from it. And typically you're finessing these people. You're lying to these people. You're giving these people like a basic package when they probably don't want the basic. They want their stars or something like that, but it's out of their budget, but you're going to lie and tell them that it's on there.
Rachel, you worked for a Cydcor franchise in Alabama, and you sent us a lot of wonderful documentation, which we'll get into in our interview today. One of the first things that really stood out to me that you sent was you sent the cover of, I guess, the industry magazine, which is called The Leader.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, looking at this thing, the first thing I thought of, and it might be because I've done so many of these interviews that it's just kind of hardwired in my brain at this point, but just by looking at the design, some of the like the symbolism, it screams like straight out of Scientology to me. Like it just looks like one of these glossy Scientology publications that nobody reads.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's what stood out to me. But anyway, what's interesting about the magazine though is that this is the way that you found out that you were working for Cydcor, right? Up until the time you got into this magazine and did a little more digging, you had never even heard the word Cydcor, right?
Right. So I was under the impression that I worked for Root Culture Incorporated, which was my boss. I refuse to call him my owner. Even when I was in the company, that just I was like, no, he's my boss, but I personally do not have an owner. He owns this company, not me. Right. So the whole reason I even ended up in the possession of this magazine is because I was at a bar one night and a man had approached me and we were just talking. I'm very talkative. And he asked me what I did for a living. And I told him that, oh, it's so embarrassing that I worked for a marketing firm and I sold, Spectrum and all this and that. And he goes, instantly, he's like, oh, be careful with that. He talked about how he ended up with his own business and it failed. And I went back to my boss and I told him about this. And he goes, oh, he just didn't manage his money right. He didn't build his team correctly. There was a lot of factors within himself, the reason why he did not succeed. Yeah. And so then this is when he pulls out this magazine. And mind you, this was like, I want to say their last key to success right before COVID hit. Yeah. So, and this was in Vegas, and my boss is actually right here. Okay. That's him. And what's funny is this little picture on the corner right here, they mailed him like a little picture of it, and he has it framed on his desk, which in hindsight, I remember seeing it and I was just like, this is an odd picture. Like, you're not even posing. It's very off guard, so whatever. So he pulls out this magazine, and because I'm telling him, like, I'm feeling just kind of like, I don't know how to feel right now. So he brings out this and he's like, oh, well, once COVID is over, stuff like this is going to be happening and we can go to conferences like this and they're really fun. It's just a giant party. And he pulled up, like, I guess, an event video for the event, and it really looked like a party. And they're just like, oh yeah, you get a bonus, you get a bonus, you get a bonus. He even got like $1,000 bonus, and it's on one of those really big checks, and he hangs it in his office because it's probably the only one he's ever going to get. So whatever. But this magazine was literally just like a propaganda tactic and a manipulation tool to keep me in. And what weirded me out about the magazine was, like, I didn't understand who I worked for at this point, because again, I was under the impression I worked for Root Culture, and our parent company was Mvalor Group, because in our orientation paperwork, it said Mvalor Group. And I knew that they had come from an office in Texas. And of course, because in the interview process, you're spilled, oh, you know, we're growing rapidly. If you can have a business in this city, we want to have one there, da 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 da. So once I quit, something just did not sit right with me about this whole thing. And so I have a degree in communications with a focus in public relations. And so one of our things is you do a backgrounder on the whole company, you know. So I started with Root Culture, and the main thing is their Google reviews are, first of all, the people that work there. And mind you, he only has 2 real loyal people that have been with him through the pandemic and all that. And the assistant manager, and I put quotations on it because on the Root Culture website, she's the assistant manager, but in reality, she was about to get promoted, but then COVID hit. Everyone ended up getting on unemployment and didn't want to come back because you're finally getting money for the first time. You're not going to come back. And then the thing is, when COVID first hit as well, Walmart was not allowing vendors in. So there was no way for them to even make money in the first place. So she is actually, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place because so many thoughts keep coming in. Because like when you're really talking about it, you truly realize none of this makes sense. None of it makes sense. So when you're in the interview process, they basically tell you there's 4 levels to it. You know, you've got the entry one, then you've got, you know, you're a team lead, then you've got assistant manager, and then boom, you're owner. So I ended up getting promoted within like 9-10 days or something like that. And I was instantly like, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna start building my own team because I'm excited, you know. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm here for this. And that's when they're like, oh no, you know, you have to go through these interview classes. You have to, we'll just see about, you have to shadow us interviewing, yada, yada, yada. And then that's when I learned that Caitlin, who was my leader, supposedly the assistant manager, she was actually like a level 3 corporate executive trainer, something like that. So, and I remember asking her, I was like, well, I don't remember, you know, that being part of it, like there being other levels within the levels. And she goes, well, yeah, you know, there's steps to everything.
When you messaged us, you used the word lie repeatedly in your I think I counted about maybe 5 or 6 times you used the word lie, where you described the actions of some of these individuals, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But so for, you know, honestly, all of this that you found out about Cydcor and your company Root Culture was after the fact, but something obviously appealed about this to you, to get there and to be promoted as quickly as you were and to be there as long as you were. So what really appealed to you about this job, and what kept you there for as long as you were there?
So I wasn't there too long. I was actually, my first day was December 27th of 2020, and I quit February 17th, 2021. I graduated college in May of 2020 in a pandemic, you know. First of all, my degree is communications with a focus in public relations. There was nothing, you know. And I am unfortunately under now where I need 5+ years experience, you know, for anything. And I was a server, and I actually ended up getting fired because I got into a altercation, but I'm actually back at that restaurant. So it is what it is. But I was just really desperate for a job, and I had been bouncing around. I ended up working at another restaurant, but there wasn't any money there. I ended up working in a shipping facility. I ended up working almost selling Colonial Life insurance. That is a whole other scam on top of everything. So I ended up coming across this because I made it a thing where I would put in at least 20 applications a day before I allowed myself to get out of bed. And this was one of them. I actually applied to this job. They didn't seek me out. I applied to it. And I remember the main thing was, no experience needed. And I was like, whatever. I'm desperate. I'm totally desperate. And so instantly, I get sent like a text message, and it's saying, hey, we got a job opportunity. Let us know if you'd like more information. Well, that's when I get a call from their admin, Heather. Now, this is very interesting how the situation played out, because I should have known from the moment I talked to Heather, because I sensed this just like this fake, genuine vibe she was trying to play off, like, oh, just asking about stuff about me. Like, you don't care. Like most people who do interviews like this, no, she was building CPR with me because that's part of their pitch as well. So she scheduled the interview, and I went in to the interview. And that's where I met my boss, James, and got scheduled for the second interview, did all that. Well, when I got the job, Heather, of course, was the one to call me and tell me that I got the job. And I was like, oh my God, okay, great. Well, where she messed up was she called me again the next day and went through the same pitch to tell me I got the job. And I was like, you called me yesterday, right? And she goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I had. And I was like, yeah. So, and I don't know why I didn't think that, like, I thought it was weird, but I was just like, what? And then what was crazy is she's not an in-house like secretary or anything either. Like she is in Texas. So, and I feel like I have really trampled off from your original question as well. But okay. What kept me in? So what kept me in was the fact that I was lied to. In the initial interview process, they told me that base salary was $500. They told me base. I did not mishear that, none of that. And then the second tier, when you get to team leader, it jumped to $800 base salary, which I remember thinking, that's crazy that you're offering me this much money with quote unquote no experience. Like that's crazy, because as soon as you hit assistant manager, it jumped to $1,200. What I saw was financial stability that I once had, and I haven't had in almost 2 months, and I really need this. Yeah. So, and I was just so desperate, and it sucks. And they knew that, and they made me feel important. They made me feel like I was so qualified, because when they took me out into the field, the first one in the interview, my leader, she walked me out and she asked me, so what makes you stand out amongst the other candidates? Because there is 3 more and we're only hiring 1. So I'm thinking, this is my time to shine. This is it. And that's the thing. They just make you feel really important. They promise you this money. They make it seem like everyone makes it through this process, when in reality, their turnover rate is worse than any restaurant I've ever worked in. And that's saying something. So it's very appealing when you don't know that things like this exist, because they're an MLM, but I have never experienced an MLM that is branded like this. Like typically we're told, things like Avon, Mary Kay, like when you buy into it, that's what it is. But this is worse, because this makes people go broke. This makes people uplift their whole lives. Everyone in my office, nobody was from Birmingham except one girl. She was just a team leader. And everyone else, James, who was my boss, he was actually from somewhere up north. This company moved him to Texas, and now he opened up his own office here. And then Caitlin, she's from Texas. She moved here, and it's just a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah, they don't care how they uproot you. As long as you're making them money, doesn't matter where they send you.
Right.
So I had mentioned earlier, you talked about the lies that you were telling people, and one of the things that you talked about was when you had to do interviews, and you basically have to sell yourself in a way, and sell other people on this idea of being mentally tough and being as successful as your advertising that you are, right? So in other words, you're struggling, but you have to make it look like you're successful, which is a very common theme in this operation. So how did you do that, number one? And what were some of the things like you were thinking in that moment where you were basically fronting as something that you weren't?
So the one major time where this was I just couldn't believe I was doing this at this point. And I want to say this was probably 2 weeks before I quit, because I literally financially could not stay at this job anymore. So I had just hired someone for my team. And in order to even start interviewing people, you have to sell $800 worth of product in 5 days. So I did that literally by the grace of God himself, literally. So I ended up hiring this girl who had no business being hired. You know, her resume was 3 pages long, freshly graduated out of high school. The spelling errors in it, you know, like I remember when my boss handed me this resume and I looked over it, and he, and I quote, goes, "I think this is a really good hire for you. She's going to do really good." And I just remember looking at it, and it just really, I kind of knew then that you're preying on people who have not had experiences to know that this is, like, I knew what was going on at this point. So I hire her, and the first day in the field, I'm going over the pitch with her, you know, we're practicing, and I don't sell anything for like 4 hours. And I think I sold like a TV and internet. And so that's, I think, $102, $120 something dollars. And I remember leaning down doing the filling out the paperwork, and I told her, I was like, "See, it's that easy. I just made $120 in 5 minutes, just like that." And she goes, "Oh, okay, so I mean, you think you're gonna sell some more today?" And I was like, "I don't know, I might not. I'm not worried about it." And so then it was time to go to lunch, and I looked at my account, and my account was -$3. You know, like, my account was literally -$3. And I kid you not, this girl literally asked me at that exact moment, she goes, "So are you like financially stable?" I was like, "Yes, of course." Meanwhile, I couldn't even buy lunch that day. Like, it just, that did not sit well with me. And I remember that day, the whole time, she was just asking me a lot of questions. And you're always supposed to, you know, deter them from that. Just be like, yep. "No, it's okay. Like, oh, it's just a day. It happens. You just have to stay positive. You have to stay motivated. Don't worry. Don't think about making money. Because the second you think about making money, you're not going to make money." Logic there, I don't know. But I remember I told her to pitch someone. And she turns and looks at someone, and she throws out the pitch, and I kid you not, she starts crying. And I was like, "Why are you crying?" And she goes, I wasn't expecting, you know, to be this nervous." And I was like, oh my God, like, is this really that bad? Like, I just made this girl cry, and I like, I don't know that. And this was just that one day, So needless to say, she came back the next day, and I told my leader, I was like, look, I don't think I can do this. I told her, like, I just can't. And so my leader, Caitlin, she goes, okay, we'll put her, with someone else today. So she went with Jasmine, another team leader, and they end up making a sale. And I guess the girl had pitched the customer, but of course she didn't know what to do or how to actually sell the product. So Jasmine had to do it. Well, Jasmine split the commission with her. Well, the girl didn't understand why that happened, and she quit because I guess she viewed it as her sale, which in a way it is, but it isn't. So fundamentally, the money was the reason why she quit, because she asked what was the base pay, and we're like, it's $725 for 40 hours. And it doesn't matter if you work more than 40 hours, or you're not going to work less than 40 hours, right? But because they want you to extra mile every night. They say it's extra miling because people know that we're in there till 7 o'clock at night. So you need to stay till 8 o'clock to make that final sale. Like, oh my God. So that was just one of the things. I would be out because, again, I'm just a social person, and people would just ask what I do, and I would tell them, and I would just constantly lie about how much I would make a week, because you don't want anyone to downplay it. Because if you tell them, like, yeah, I really only sold $380 this week, and that's the most I've ever sold, then they're just going to think, oh, yeah, so this is a joke. Like that week that I hit $800, it was $790, but they so desperately needed to promote someone to team lead so they could keep growing that they just went ahead and did it. And the only reason I made that money that week was because I had 2 people approach me, and that usually never happens, but they approached me and wanted a triple play, and that's $300. And I did that in 20 minutes. But that was the only time that happened. And I kid you not, I didn't make any sales for like a week after that. Mm-hmm. So and then like they want to tell you, oh, the business is modeled to equal out $1,000 a week. There's no way. I never saw anyone make $1,000 a week. And this is the thing, you got put into a group me. So when you made a sale, you posted it in the group me. So if I sold an internet, which is $42, I would put in the group me $42. Then if Caitlin sold something, say she sold a triple play, I think it was like $150 you made, she would say 150. And then if she sold an internet, it would go up to 192. So we all knew how much everyone was making. I knew that my team leader was barely hitting $500 a week, and she was hustling to get that. I mean, this is where the lies on what we told people, like the customers, this stuff, they prey on low income areas. So I'm not from Birmingham, and that's where we're at. I'm from Montgomery. Montgomery's like an hour and a half away. And I remember one day we were in the office and they were talking about wanting to take a trip to Montgomery, and set up there. And I was like, I'll go to Montgomery, because I was thinking I'm gonna spend the night, I'm gonna go home, it'll be fine. And they were like, yeah, we'll plan it, da, da, da. And I said, okay, so we're gonna go to, Chantilly Walmart, right? Because Chantilly Walmart in Montgomery is like the kind of bougie Walmart. It's the nice one on the east side. It's the one, Montgomery, very, very racial place. Okay. Yeah. So I'm thinking you want to go to the places where people have the most money. No, not with this business. They wanted to go to the Walmart on Ann Street. And I'm like, those people are like very impoverished. Like, I don't think they can really be spending the money on cable, internet, phone at the prices we offer it. Because the thing is, with the cable, they're going to advertise it as, oh, we can get everything bundled for $89.99 and not tell you that you have to buy a box for every TV. And that's $8. Like, by the time we build this package, it's minimum $150, you know, and that's for basic everything, you know, so it's not affordable. I was selling the stuff and I only had internet, you know, so no, and I'm lying to people saying, oh yeah, I have this package, I ain't got no package. I literally have internet. That's it. And so when I put two and two together on the fact that, oh, okay, we're going to low income areas because low income areas have a lower rate. Like here in Birmingham, in Inslee, the rates there are like $30 for internet. Where I stay at in South Avondale, internet is $55 because it's considered a nicer area. Where I used to stay in Southside, which is by campus, it's like a $65 premium there. So I started understanding, okay, you just want to make your commission because the prices are lower here and you think you can, all right. So when we would sign people up, my leader in particular would lie and say that these promotions, like once you signed up, it was going to be good for 5 years, knowing damn well that these little things only lasted 12 months, 24 months at best. Not 5 years. I don't know any cable company or anything that's giving out
never heard of
this
that
price for 5 years. Never. So a tactic that we would use to sell Spectrum, we would re-sign the customer up using another name. And fun fact, my internet right now is signed up under my mom's first name and her maiden name. Like, meanwhile, my mom can't even get Spectrum where she lives. And that's a whole other issue on why this business is going to fail in Alabama, because there's so much rural area. Half of the people you pitch don't even live 10, 15 minutes out of the way, and they can't even get Spectrum. You know, so the Spectrum campaign is going to fail very, very soon. I'm just waiting for the day. I'm waiting on it. But we would sign people up using other names, and you would say the person had a husband. I would just sign it up in the husband's name, call it and cancel, boom. And then usually, typically, their bill would go down because they would have been a customer for 4 or 5 years. And of course, they're going to get a new customer promotion, which is like easily $20, $25 cheaper. But there was rarely any time where you just successfully pitched someone who didn't have Spectrum and they bought it. It was rarely ever that. It was always you were switching something around. A lot of times, some people would have to pay up front, other people wouldn't. So if you paid up front, that was considered your first month's payment. If you didn't have to pay up front, then you would get your bill a month later after installation. So say someone got internet, cable, phone, they would have to pay that first month's bill. So that would be like $150 I'm asking you in the middle of a Walmart right now, next to the books. Like, give me your debit card. And most of the time they'd be like, oh no, I ain't got that on me right now. Of course you don't. Like, of course I don't. The fuck? I don't. I don't know what you want me to do. And so they would tell you to say, oh, well, could you pay $55 today? And what you would do is you would take everything off the package, leave the internet, get them to pay the internet, call into the call center, say your tablet was messing up and that it wasn't working. And then you would give them like the work order number, and you would tell them that the customer wants to add the TV package and the phone. And they would push it through most of the time. If they didn't, you'd have to hang up real quick, hopefully call another person in the call center, get someone else, and you would keep doing this until you got the order pushed through. And yeah, that was how we made money. That was how we made money. It was never ever truly signing up someone new. And then one of the biggest finesses of the game was to always add the phone, the home phone. It's only $10 extra, but you get literally like, sometimes you got a $20, $30 extra commission just for selling a $10 phone. Mm-hmm. And so when you were pitching them, telling them, hey, this is the price for your package, you would never say you added the phone. And if they think the price is too high, you can be like, oh, okay, hang on, I can switch something around real quick. Just take the phone off, you know, and it automatically drops $10. And they think that you just saved them so much. So either you're going to make the sale because you either added the phone, you got that extra commission, or you either dropped the phone and you still got the sale because they think you did the favor. There's a lot more lies. Like, there's so many lies. I can't even remember all that we had to say. Like, oh, if it was a Valentine's Day, you're having a Valentine's Day promotion. Only today. Today only. These prices, no, it's Valentine's Day promotion, President's Day promotion. Like, what? New Year promotion, New Year Day promotion. Yep. Shut up. Like, no, we would go into the atmosphere room. And I remember my absolutely not.
Boss.
See, it slips up.
Yeah, it does.
And I hate that. I feel disgusted. Let me go like vomit real quick. But so James, he would literally tell us, I don't care what you say to them, just make that sale. If they have baby stuff in the basket, say we're having a baby shower sale. I mean, literally just would throw out crazy reasons as to why you need to get this Spectrum today and only today. If they want to call you about it later, they need to ask somebody why. Call them right now. Let's talk about it right now. They had me walk around with a woman while she was buying groceries with my tablet in a blazer, selling this woman Spectrum. And not even just selling her Spectrum, redoing it in like her middle name and her maiden name or something like that. So yeah, just a lot of lies. We had to tell them that they were getting half off installation, when in reality, installation was never on the bill anyway, because we're during COVID and everything is being sent to you. So you just plug it in. Now, this is where Spectrum is kind of wrong. If you had problems with putting stuff in, they would charge you like over $200 to come and install it for you. But what we would tell our people is, oh, just call and say you need a rescue technician, but you had to say rescue and it would be free. I don't know why, but if you said you needed a rescue technician, it would be free.
But it's just amazing to hear all the different lies that we have to tell everybody. Like, there's lies, you're lying to customers on a daily basis, you're lying to your recruits on a daily basis, you're lying to yourself on a daily basis, because you're trying to convince yourself that you're successful, when in fact nothing about this is success at all.
No, it's a huge front. And I even remember when tax season came around, and James was talking about, he was like, oh yeah, I get taxed so much because I make so much money. And I was just like, okay, you know, I never saw any real money from him, and let me tell you why. So team nights, which, okay, so with my social self, I lived for team night, like, but that's just my personality type. Like, I enjoy going out randomly anyway. So a Monday night at a little bar, I'm always down. So the first one I ever went to, it was at Sleek, which is like a little bar food spot. And I remember going and they were like, oh yeah, they have dollar wells. And I was like, dollar wells? Like, okay, that's cool. And when I first started this job, I still had some money, so I was all right. I was like, you know what, fine. And I was thinking I was gonna make more money, so I'm like, okay, I'll drink your little dollar wells, that's fine. But I really want my Deep Eddy lemon and Sprite, please, but I'm like, I'll drink your dollar wells. So I ate, I drank, and I was like, so is everyone gonna get some food, because I'm hungry, like we just literally worked at this Walmart all day. All I had was a salad. I'm hungry. So I'm like, can I get a 10 mango habanero with some fries? Thank you, appreciate it. And I'm looking around and like they're sharing food. And Jasmine in particular was like kind of known as the vulture. She would never order food. She would just eat everyone else's leftovers. Which I mean, I was like, okay, we're just frugal, that's fine. I'm not really frugal. I'm young. I enjoy to have a good time. It is what it is. So I thought that was kind of weird. And so we kept going to Sleek and it was fine. Or some nights we would go to James, to his apartment. And he stayed in, a fairly nice apartment. It wasn't anything crazy, it wasn't, I don't know if it, I think I kind of brushed it aside as like, oh, he just moved here like a year ago, I didn't think anything of it. I was like, I wouldn't buy a house and settle down that quick either,
Sure.
So I brushed it off. And I mean, we would have fun, we would play games and stuff, drink, pretty heavy drinkers, not gonna lie. Again, I lived for it. I thought it was fun, but I started noticing that like they all kind of knew each other a little too well, I guess. And turns out James and his girlfriend who came with him from Texas, they met because of this business. Like they were co-workers at one point. Mm-hmm. She quit. And so then, of course, my leader came with James. So Caitlin was dating a man that she pitched in Walmart. And then Jasmine, who was another team leader, was dating a guy who used to work there, but he no longer did. And I was just like, okay, like I felt like an oddball out in a way, because I'm just like, all right, like y'all just seem to be way tighter knit. And they were, because they were the only ones that had really stuck it through, Jasmine and Caitlin were. And when I left, the other girl that started with me and left with me for the exact same reasons, we were the only people that they had, like, mm-hmm. and for some months. So now it's just James, Jasmine, and Caitlin, and that's it. So when it comes to team night, it would be the whole office. Crew night was, I want to say, every Friday night, and I didn't really like the Friday nights because I want to be with y'all on a Friday night, not at all. And then we had to be back in the office Saturday morning, because our off days were Tuesday and Wednesday. So I'm already having to work all these weekends, and you get off 30 minutes early on Saturday. Shut up. Like, I don't care about that. 30 minutes is doing nothing for my social life, nothing. Yeah. So all day we would be like, oh, where are we going to go for crew night? And crew night would literally just be me and my team leader, Caitlin. Yeah. That's it. There was no other crew. It was just us. And it was kind of awkward because she made me feel almost obligated to be her friend. And that was what was very weird about this whole dynamic. She would want to hang out with me on our off days. And when I would suggest a place, it would be like, oh, do they have like, any specials going on? Like it would always be like, something. So there's just a lot of instances where they were just unnecessarily frugal. Yeah. And I say unnecessarily because when you paint a picture of this lifestyle, you wouldn't necessarily worry about it. Like I remember in my initial interview with James, he drives an Acura and I drive a Charger, and we pull up at the same time. And when I'm leaving the interview, he was like, if I was you, I would go out the back way because if me and you go out that way, it's going to scrape our cars, and like we have really nice cars. And I was like, my car is decent. My car's already I'm the owner of it, like that car's already kind of bent up. But I'm like, your Acura is nice too, I guess. Like, it's just so much that they just want to throw out at you. Like they'll just have this really nice MacBook sitting out there. They'll have their business paperwork like with their name on the actual business license and stuff to make it seem real. Like he even had like one of those stamp press thingies, like I ain't gonna lie, I was impressed. I was like, wow, so it must be real. No, it's not. That's just, that in itself is just another manipulative tactic, and like he kept that $1,000 styrofoam check or cardboard check, whatever it is. It weighs not even an ounce. So he has it just hanging there because he's so proud of it. Like, I'm so happy you're proud of that $1,000 that they just gave you. My boss was just a very frugal person. Mm-hmm. And one time he went into the field with me when I was really, I started only going in part-time because I was door dashing to I was having to door dash to make money so I could actually live. And he pretty much knew my time was coming to an end because I was just frustrated. Mm-hmm. I was pretty fed up. So he went into the field with me, and he was never known to go into the field. And he started talking to me about how I should start meal prepping. And I needed to go into the freezer section and go get a bag of Great Value chicken, a box of 5-minute rice, get, and I quote, a shit ton of seasonings, and go crazy. That was this man's advice to me. And then he proceeded to go and buy me a Subway sandwich. So I'll take it. But that was the advice. And one of the best things this man ever told me was you just got to be a duck and not give a fuck. And you can tell this man is not from the South, because if you call anyone a duck or you call yourself a duck, you're stupid. You're a sitting duck. Anyone can do anything to you. You're green. No, I'm never going to call myself a duck, and especially one that doesn't give a fuck. No. And his whole point, the analogy behind all of this was when ducks are in the pond. This was about a positive attitude. When the ducks are in the pond, you don't notice their little feet wagging. They're just floating, being ducks, not giving a fuck. But you don't know that they're just paddling away. So that's supposed to be you. No one's supposed to know that you're paddling away. People are just supposed to know that you're okay. Like, no. No.
I'll give them credit. They are creative with their BS, because I always hear something new, some new analogy, some new story that's supposed to make you feel good, but it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Rachel, you sent us some documents that I think are important to look at, because they're very subtle in their manipulation. Like this whole interview, you've talked about lies and manipulation. And to someone who's not going into this looking for things, it's very easy to miss. Like for one example that you sent, and I'm guessing this is in the orientation packet. There's so much to read. Like I'm stunned by how much reading material these give. I don't know if it's office specific. I don't know if it's just a Cydcor thing or what.
They gave me this binder.
Okay.
And this is my team. I was Team Empire. And within this, they're of course going to give you your orientation packet. Yep. And this is where I was told that I worked under Mvalor Group. So that was where my initial investigation even started. But within this packet itself, and I've got all of my Spectrum stuff in here too. So you get the crew schedule, which shows Monday is where we have team night, of course. Thursday was supposed to be a crew breakfast, which we never did. They said as soon as the office got bigger, we'd start doing it, but no. And then Friday you had crew night. And so then, and now mind you, I went through all of this, I want to say my third day on the job, and my team leader actually took me to Waffle House because, you know, you're supposed to be bonding, you know what I'm saying? So the first thing she went over was the personal finance help sheet. And so this is supposed to show you your break even every week. So what you need to make in order to pay your bills. So my overall monthly expenses was $1,600 because I live alone, So it is what it is. And so my break even every week, I had to make $400 just to pay my bills, you know, not to live, not to eat. And mind you, there is a spot on here for groceries and it's zero. You know, I didn't put anything for it. And for gas, I put $40, but I was spending way more than that.
Imagine,
gas for this. So they go over that. And so they tell you, you know, oh, you need to make, you know, 400. And then they've got all of these. I don't even know how to explain what these are, but it's just, they're like motivational bullshit.
It is. It really is. There's no better way.
Pages of it. And you're supposed to read this when you're, you know, feeling discouraged or, you know, you need a little motivation. It's just, it's just as long as the orientation packet itself. True.
Yeah. And there's a few things in here, like one of them says, I can make it happen, which again is supposed to instill you with this positive mindset, this positive attitude when you're feeling down. And it gives all these examples from throughout history of people that were told it would never happen. Christopher Columbus, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, Madame Curie. Are you really comparing these historical figures to some loser who thinks he's owning his own business, selling Spectrum to people in Walmart? Come on. Are you serious? Come on.
It pains me that I didn't just understand what was being thrown at me when it initially was. That's what I'm saying. It's embarrassing. When I was in college, people never told me, but communication theories, there is a ton of them and you're going to be studying a lot of them. And I remember when I sat down in the classroom for the first time and I was thinking, oh, I'm bound to know a lot of these already. You know what I'm saying? Never heard of any of these theories in my life. Like, never heard of them. And the thing, whoever created this whole business model is truly an evil genius. I mean, the amount of manipulation that has gone into every tier of every action that's laid out, it is a phenomenon for real. Like, it is, it's intimidating.
Yeah, and a lot of the manipulation is so subtle. There's one page called Mind Your Own Business, and it's talking about not getting lost in what other people think about ourselves and things like that. And then, a common theme of a lot of these interviews is how you are either subtly told or explicitly told to essentially cut yourself off from your support system, your family members, your friends, because they're not going to understand what you do. And they're going to be that quote unquote negative influence. At the very, very bottom of this page, it's so subtle, it's so quick. They barely make a mention of it until the very end. It says, if you find yourself in such a negative position where a friend or relative seems to feel that way, in a sense, criticizing, then identify them as one whose lack of effort and lack of motivation is ultimately going to be the reason they fail, and separate yourself from that energy instantly. Essentially, cut yourself off from your support system. That's what that means.
If anyone around you has any ounce of doubt, you are to instantly shut it down. One thing about me, though, I'm blessed with one of the best support systems anyone could have. And what sucks is I think the way that I was portraying this business, they didn't suspect anything because they trust me as a person and my judgment. So what I am portraying to them, they took for face value. Now, one of my friends, she was like, nah, I felt a little way, but I wasn't going to stop you. I was just going to let you have at it. So, but no, this company, they're very much big on keeping you secluded and almost monitoring everything you do and who you hang out with. Like if I would mention anyone, they're like, oh, who is that? Who is that? Blah, blah, blah. My leader, I thought at the time she was just kind of desperate for a friend. And I still kind of think that, honestly, because that's just what this business, it makes you desperate for friends because you end up having none. So she would just call me randomly on our off days just to talk about her hair. She wanted to walk around campus one day with me. And I'm like, I don't even do that anymore. I graduated, so it's just, she would just constantly want to try and hang out with me and my friends. And again, I'm so social. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm fine with that. But it was just weird because I wouldn't call her. I didn't feel the need to share my life with her, but she would call me just to complain about her boyfriend. And then what was really weird most of the time would be her boyfriend would be on a 3-way call with us. Like he would be in on the call, like 3 people. I'm like, why would you call me if you're already on the phone with him? It never made sense. It never made sense. There's a lot of instances where I can now look back and see like, yeah, she was trying to keep me reeled in. She was trying to see what I was doing, check in, make sure nobody was influencing me, stuff like that's all that was.
I think one of the most egregious things that I noticed in this information packet, well, one of them I kind of had to chuckle at because in one section it talks about critical and creative thinking skills. And it talks about creative thinking, problem solving, and recognizing opportunities, but it never mentions critical thinking skills.
Right.
Which I think is, again, it's something that if you're not looking for, you're probably not going to notice because Cydcor, Smart Circle Credico, they hate critical thinking skills. Because if you have critical thinking skills, that means you're probably going to figure out that this whole thing is a scam and it's not real. Exactly. So I think that's a great reflection of well, they talk about critical thinking skills in the subheading there, but they never mention it anywhere else. Right. And I think that's very there's a reason for that. But I like I said, one of the most egregious things that they do is under the defining entrepreneurship section, because one of my major criticisms, and not just mine, thousands of people's criticisms of these operations is, false advertising of entrepreneurship.
Right.
Because as anybody knows, no one can hire you to be an entrepreneur.
No.
But this is how they define, they present entrepreneurship as kind of like this unknown orb concept. No one really knows what entrepreneurship is. They say some experts, and again, who are these experts?
Right.
Is it Gary Paulson of Cydcor? Is it Larry Tenenbaum of Smart Circle? Who are these experts? They think of entrepreneurs as people who are willing to take risks that other people are not. Others, so they make this as the secondary definition. Others define them as people who start and build successful businesses. Continuing on, they say, thinking about the first of these definitions, entrepreneurship doesn't necessarily involve starting your own business, which is really an answer to that question of, well, how can you call yourself an entrepreneur if Cydcor essentially owns your business? You have an out now. You're like, well, being an entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean starting and building your own business. Really? When did we change that definition?
Right. So I'm actually really glad I'm glad you brought this up. So I'm back serving, and I actually had 3 men come in and sit with me, and they were wearing AT&T shirts. And I had a thought in my mind. I was like, I wonder if y'all are on a team night right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to say anything. And I was talking it up with them with the Woo because I'm trying to make a tip, I've got an agenda. And he proceeds to try and recruit me. And I'm like, what do you do? Because he goes, he just goes, how do you feel about direct marketing? I said, what do you do? He goes, oh, I do business to business, not business to business. I do door-to-door sales. And I said, absolutely not. I said, you work for Cydcor? And he goes, how did you know? And I said, okay, look, I'm finna go close out all these tables, and I'm finna come back, and I'm gonna sit down with you. Because at this point, I had found you, and I was obsessed with your videos. Like, all I did was watch your videos. I watched every single one of them, literally. And I was just obsessed. So I literally went and closed out all of my tables, and I said, I'm coming back. I'm going to sit down and talk to y'all about this. You're in a cult. And I literally
and you walked away.
Yeah, I walked away. And I came back, and I sat with them, and I took a napkin, I took a pen out of my pocket, and I just started writing. And I mean, none of it made sense, because this was like the first people I had encountered after just finding the truth about everything. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna save you guys. Well, it ended up getting in such a heated argument. The man walked out on me. So I'm writing down, I put Root Culture, who I worked for. I put Mvalor Group, who I worked for. And then I put another sign going up. And I was like, I don't know who's above them, but I know it's somebody else. And then you've got Cydcor. And I was like, so then you've got this, but then you're selling this. I was all over the place with them. And they wanted to say, well, hold up, because that's not even what we do. And I said, okay, so you explain to me what you do. And they said that one of them, the one that tried to recruit me, he has an office here. The 2 men that were with him are from an office in Memphis, or I could be getting that wrong, something like that. And they were here training. So I was like, okay, so let me guess. Y'all had an atmosphere this morning. They were like, yeah, how did you know? And I'm like, because like, I know you're not that unique. Like, this is not your business. And he goes, yes, it is my business. My name is on it. Like, I own it. I work for myself. And I'm like, yes, but are these people not taking a part of your earnings? And he goes, well, yes, of course. And I'm like, so what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? It got so heated to where one of the men who was coming from that other office up north, he ends up standing up and tells me, I own 2 other businesses, and you're really going to sit here and try to tell me that this is a scam and that I'm frauding people out of their money and their time. And I said, yes, I am, because I don't care. Oh my God, my dog just moved. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
But I told him, I'm like, you might be making money, sure, but it's about the principle. It's about how you're making that money, what you're doing to make that money, and what you're doing to these people underneath you. And he ends up saying, I didn't know what I was talking about, and that my personal experience with the company I had, he was sorry that it was such a bad one. But I have the whole situation of it completely wrong. And he ended up walking out. And the 2 men that were left sat there and apologized to me for how he acted, but in the same breath said that I was wrong and that they're making $800 minimum a week. And I said, all right, sure. And I said, if you can just do me a favor, go look at this YouTube channel, just watch it. You know, it doesn't have to change your mind. I just want you to watch it. You know, just get another perspective. And they're like, okay, you know, I'll do it, but I think you're missing out. All right, that's fine. I think you're missing out. So it's okay. We can agree to disagree on that one. So I never heard anything back from them. Of course not. They're never gonna, I don't even know if they even looked at it, you know?
No,
but
no. And even if they did, they would never admit that you had any effect on them.
Right.
Because everything, they can deflect anything, you know, like if they come across someone like you with a quote unquote negative experience, and you see these in the Glassdoor reviews all the time, when someone leaves a negative review, they'll use like pretty much the same words you said. I'm sorry that your experience was so negative and it doesn't reflect the reality. It's always some other explanation. Right. Every single one of the people who's done an interview, well, they're just a failure, or they didn't try hard enough, or they weren't there long enough, you know, or they had a bad owner, you know, it's the owner's fault, you know, it's never Cydcor's fault. It's never the systems. It's never the pyramid shape of Cydcor and Smart Circle. It's always someone else. It's always something else that they can blame it on.
I ended up going down like a little rabbit hole on Facebook, and Facebook will recommend, you know, other companies that are like these. Well, I went to Root Culture on Facebook, and they instantly sent me, I probably found a good 20 offices, and they all just have atrocious names. Can we just talk about the names of companies, like Relentless Concepts and just like Rogue? It's just, they're also egotistical names, and they sound so big, bad, and macho. And one thing that I feel like is becoming these owners' kryptonite is when you ask them, well, can you accept small business clients, you know, things of that nature. And what I was told by the man that I was serving, he goes, well, why would I want to do that? They're not going to give me any money. And I'm like, yeah, but if you actually have a marketing firm, you would know that these small companies are going to be your golden ticket to success. You know, you want to talk about, you represent Fortune 500 companies and Walmart. Meanwhile, you could really be doing a lot of behind the scenes marketing, Google advertising for real companies, but instead you're doing direct sales. I'm going to let you have that. So arguing with these owners is going to become one of my favorite pastimes. Honestly, I've honestly thought about just making little business cards and finding where these people are. I saw one DirecTV guy in Target the other day, and I asked him, I said, because he said, hey, I work for AT&T. Who do you have for internet and cable? And I said, Spectrum. And he instantly, with the tablet, okay, we are laying lines down. And I was like, who do you work for? And he goes, AT&T. Didn't I just say that? And I was like, I'm gonna leave you alone. I was like, I don't have the time to argue with you in this Target today, but I want to make something because I know they go to lunch. They go to lunch around 3. Mm. And the DirecTV people, they constantly are going on breaks and stuff. So one day, I just want to leave a bunch of like the slave circle stuff just all over their tables, all over their podiums, just something. Like I will make a banner, you know? The main thing that kept me going with this was the mental toughness. And I was convinced that if I quit, I was just not mentally tough. And that was something I didn't want to admit to myself. I'm like, no, I pride myself in that. I'm not about to give up. But nobody talks about, I think, the kind of mental abuse that is taken when you set up these tables in Walmart. When we would be pitching people, they would say horrendous things back to you. They would say, hey, how you doing? Who do you have for internet and cable? Spectrum, bitch ass. Okay, all right, that's cool. Then it would just get worse. You with your slow ass, like people would just cuss at you, belittle you, call you names. And I mean, some of them would literally just, people would be so rude. And you do this to like 200 people a day. And that's minimum that they want you to do. So my breaking point, and I kid you not, was me sitting on a Walmart toilet crying on Indeed, trying to find another job because a lady had literally said like Spectrum with your slow ass or something like that. And I just couldn't take it anymore. Like, I'm not truly an aggressive person, but everyone has that breaking point. I was literally about to fight these people in Walmart because the things that are said, the treatment, it's bad, you know, it's bad. But I mean, when you think about it, you're trying to finesse these people. So you know what? You have every right to be rude to me. You should have been rude to me. You saved yourself by being essentially rude to me. But you're told, and I remember when I was getting really fed up one day and Caitlin tells me, oh, well, you just need to let it go. They're just miserable. You know, these people are just miserable. They're probably broke. Da, 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 da. Meanwhile, that was me. You know, I'm miserable standing in this Walmart, like hounding people who they have for internet and cable. And like, essentially you're arguing with people all day, just trying to convince them. And it's mentally taxing because you're not getting really any reward from it. You're not getting any benefit from it. And typically you're finessing these people. You're lying to these people. You're giving these people like a basic package when they probably don't want the basic. They want their stars or something like that, but it's out of their budget, but you're going to lie and tell them that it's on there. So it's just, it was just very mentally draining to so much where the day I quit, I ended up crying in my car and I took in my tablet and my table to my leader. And I was just like, I can't do it anymore. I didn't even walk in because I was in a horrible mood. I was broke because every time I would get off, I was starting to leave around 3:00 every day instead of 7 because I would start door dashing and I didn't care. I would just leave because I'm standing here and y'all are going to pay minimum wage. You know, if you didn't make your commission, then you got paid, I think after taxes, like $285 a week. And I made that every week, basically. My highest check was maybe $580 something. And that was after I hit that $790. But just because you make the sale doesn't mean you get that money, because you have to wait for them to install it, and then they have to keep it installed for like a week or something like that.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just a lot. It's a lot, honestly.
Yeah. And I think the worst part of all of this, and there's a reason why they do it, is they target young people. They target college grads. They target people with little to no work experience.
Yep.
Because they have no alternative narrative to hold it up against. They think that standing in a store or going door to door for 8-9 hours a day and taking abuse and having dogs bite you and stuff like that, that's normal. Well, that's the working world. No, it's not the working world at all. If you're sitting in a bathroom crying, looking for another job, or if you're sitting in your car crying at the end of the day, that's not right. That's not the working world, you know? And you know, they will try anything to get you to stay longer. So they'll say, oh, you know, people who work in, you know, fast food, they're just failures. People who sell cars are just failures. Everybody's a failure unless you're in Cydcor. Well, yet, if you leave, I guarantee you can find a real opportunity in a very short time.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I told them that I was about to have to take like a week off just the DoorDash so I could make my rent money, which was due in like 4 days, they started telling me, oh, well, you know, you got to pay for gas. You're going to wear and tear on your car. You're going to have to get tires. All just to discourage me from doing that, to stay with it. And it was just, how dare you tell me to stay with something you know is not financially feasible for me? I'm telling you, I have to pay this money in 4 days and I don't have any of it. I have none of it. And I'm telling you, I have a way to get it that's foolproof, and you're discouraging me. Like, that's just not how that should work. But those people that I worked for and with, I'm convinced there's no way they're happy. You know, like, you want to sit here and call all these people in Walmart miserable and all this and that when you're dependent on them buying something that you need to sell, you know?
Yeah.
It's just so disheartening. And I've really been contemplating on if I wanted to reach out to them or not, you know, just to say something, because I really do, just out of like, you know, you played me and you play with a lot of people. Like, this is not okay. And y'all are so brainwashed and manipulated into thinking that you're about to be so successful, you're about to be this, and that, when in reality, I'm sorry, but you're being really dumb. Like, you're being very dumb, because if you are in this business, and there's a lot of people who have been scammed like this, you know, because I was approached by people who told me, you know, be careful, don't get all swept up in this. And no job, no real good job is going to come with a warning like this one does.
Right.
Like, when you tell someone you work for them, it's instantly, you know, so I think from now on, if I come across any job, any review with an ounce of just the red flags I saw with this one, I'm staying clear from it, because there's no real corporate job, no real marketing job has the reviews like this place does. So that's the number one sign for me I'm gonna always look out for. And if the person who's their secretary calls me to congratulate me twice, you know, that's definitely gonna be the biggest red flag. I just can't believe I got swept up into this, honestly. Desperation will lead you to crazy areas of life, I guess. Walmart toilet, excellent.